Chills recap here. On today's video, I'm going to explain an action and thriller film called Atomic Blonde. Spoilers ahead, may love and happiness continue to follow you in your life. The beginning, Lorraine has been called to take on a job being herself as an expert in escape and evasion, and also proficient in intelligence collection. Then she was asked if she knew an agent by the name of James Gascoigne. She replied they worked together in Istanbul during '85. Then she was immediately informed that James is dead. That James has been killed during his mission in Berlin. She was debriefed that James is supposed to retrieve a microfilm from a guy named Spyglass. The item is a Swiss watch containing the list. The list contains every active agent working on both sides, containing all their shady deals that could extend the Cold War for 40 years. And Lorraine's job is to retrieve that item from a man named Bacton who killed their agent Gascoigne. That she will meet an agent named David Percival, her point of contact in Berlin. Meanwhile, in Berlin, Spyglass also has a meeting with David. David gave him an expensive brandy and is demanding about the list. But Spyglass mentions that he gave it already to Gascoigne, which unknown to David, didn't show up. Spyglass replied that he risked everything as a Stasi officer to make that list, and that David should make him and his family escape as part of agreement. David insists no list, no deal. Then a commotion happens, the building is now being raided by the police, and everyone scattered including them. While escaping, David asked if he made a copy. Spyglass convinced him that he memorized the entire list, every single agent. Lorraine arrived at the airport in Berlin, then is greeted by a driver of Percival saying he's there to pick her up. Inside the car, she is informed about everything of the country and its nightlife, and how remarkable time it is to be there in Berlin. Then she got suspicious when the car headed to a tunnel. Her instinct was right upon the driver mentioning about delivering a message to her boss from a KGB head officer named Alexander. Being ambushed, she resists and starts to fight her way out of the car. First she knocked the guy out beside her, pushing him through the door. Later, making the car tumbles, crashing into the highway barrier. After that, David approached her apologizing for being late. That he has important matters he had to finish that morning. That night, she entered a store telling the watchmaker that she would like to purchase a watch. And also mentions that she needs access to a network in East Berlin. The watchmaker tells her to come back again tomorrow before closing. Next scene, a flashback of James Gascoigne is being shown, suggesting that they used to be lovers. Gascoigne warns her she needs to run. Then Lorraine wakes up as she is just having a bad dream. The next day, she decided to investigate the apartment Gascoigne used to live and to know whether she might find a clue of some of his affiliates. Because her superior mentioned before that there is a double agent by the name of Satchel who is leaking intelligence on both sides. That Satchel has been a thorn on the crown for many years, and exposing him will benefit her.
You might find yourself taking tea at Buckingham Palace.
Back in the apartment, among the rubbles is a picture of Gascoigne and David in it, suggesting that they know each other quite well. Then policemen are now on her track, thinking that David is the only one who knew she was there. Her suspicions about him grew even more. She fights the police, knocking each one of them out using a hose. Then later, fights more of them using a baton. She later then escapes using the same hose by jumping the balcony. To get more information about her supposed to be ally David, she visited him to his home. Lorraine gave him her coat, and David told her to make herself at home. Lorraine noticed some of David's book in his library, and that it is David's favorite, free of speech. Then Lorraine mentioned the subject of interest, Bacton. David just answers, if Bacton has the list, he would have sold it already to the KGB, but since no intel about it, that they just have to wait. Lorraine also confronted David about the picture she found of them a few years back. David just told her that he might have forgotten to mention her, that they used to be friends. Now going for a walk, David tells her what's important is getting that list, because they are all exposed in it. And of course, his main objective is staying alive. Lorraine replied that she trusts him as much as she could throw him.
It's a double pleasure to deceive the deceiver.
Nicola Machiavelli.
David was impressed Lorraine knowing it, and that he now fucking love her. Lorraine now goes into a famous bar the driver has mentioned to her. There, she ordered Stoli on ice. Alexander, the head of the KGB Russians, approached her and then compliments her. Then he asked about what she is looking. Lorraine replied that, after what all has been said and done, they must be looking for the same thing. Surprisingly, another woman approached them, interrupting their conversations, claiming that she knows Lorraine and telling him that Lorraine and her needs their private conversation alone. Then Alexander left, bidding them that they will cross paths again. After that, Delphine introduced herself and thought that Lorraine needed saving from that man, and then invited her to go to another club. But Lorraine declined, so she just gave the name of the bar and left. Lorraine is back again at the store, and the watchmaker tells her that her watch is ready. Lorraine took the envelope and left. Unknowingly to her, David is spying on her through an audio communicator. Back at her house, she disassembles the watch and deciphered the codes written on some parts of the watch. The next day, the code points where her next contact will be, so she makes her way to the east wall. There, across the border, she is being followed by the KGB. She immediately noticed it and rushed inside a cinema building. Men is still trying to pursue her, while she successfully blends with the cinema watchers. After that, she tried to exit the back door, but a pursuant caught into her, leading into a fight. She knocks the guy out using a ladder and then push a metal rack to render him immobile. She disguised herself, barely leaving the cinema in one piece. Later, she meets a guy named Merkel, the contact of the watchmaker, complaining that she was late and she was followed.
I'm late because I was followed.
She asked Merkel about a man named Bachtel. Merkel answers he has no idea and that the black market is careful about the list because of this satchel character working on both sides of the wall. Then Lorraine just wants to know about Merkel's network on that part of the wall. Lorraine goes to the bar Delphine mentioned to her before. She meets with Delphine and already she had ordered Stoli on the rocks for Lorraine. Lorraine is impressed. Delphine wasted no time and kissed her, then they went somewhere quiet. They give each other a tongue massage, and later, Lorraine touched something behind her and it's a gun. She confronted about her carrying a gun. Then Delphine tells her that she knows everything about Lorraine and that she is MI6. And she's also there because of the death of James Gascoigne. Then Delphine mentions that she is a novice French operative and she claims to be an ally, getting also that list. She confessed that it's her first assignment and that she is scared. Although Lorraine is initially suspicious of Delphine, they eventually enter into a sexual relationship after a passionate kiss in a nightclub. Meanwhile, David has his own operation going on, tailing Bachtel entering the watch store disguised as a black market. Bachtel is there to inform the watchmaker that he possesses an item full of secrets and that he would like to sell it to the highest bidder. Knowing this, David posed as that highest bidder to get that said item. He meets Bachtel in a secluded alley and killed him, getting the list. Lorraine meets with David and tells him that Bachtel is found dead by the police, having a homemade lobotomy, but David avoided the topic by suggesting that they should meet up with Spyglass instead. Lorraine is confused, she thought that David hadn't met Spyglass yet. David replied with a smirk on his face, telling her that he lied, and also telling her that Spyglass claims to have memorized the entire list. Lorraine and Percival make plans to escort him across the border to West Berlin. They both agreed to proceed with the plan, and they parted ways. Then, David meets with Alexander, who suspects David has the list. But he offers only the second best thing, the identity and operations details of Satchel, also tipping him off about the plan to extricate Spyglass from East Berlin. The day has arrived. Lorraine now meets Spyglass for the first time and suggests that Spyglass should shave his mustache and have a makeover so no one would suspect him as a Stasi officer. Alexander's group is also now preparing to prevent Spyglass from giving the list to their enemies. After the paperwork's done, Spyglass is having a cold feet from crossing, confessing to Lorraine that he is scared, but what choice does he have? Lorraine tells him with confidence that he is no good to her dead and that she never lost a package. Surprisingly, someone entered their hideout and it's Spyglass' family. Lorraine is shocked because it wasn't part of the plan, but David tells her that he will escort the wife and kid instead. They now exit the building, trying to blend in the street full of protesters of tearing down the historic Berlin Wall. At the same time, the KGB spotted them and alerts everyone in the team. But Lorraine also has a plan on her own to fully camouflage them just in case. People that surrounds them pulls out black umbrellas covering them from the range of sniper. Lorraine and David now parted ways. Then, someone shoots Spyglass and Lorraine attends to him immediately. Percival secretly shoots him when the KGB agents are unable to. The two of them entered the building to deal with the problem right away, or else they will never cross the border. Lorraine battles multiple KGB agents while rescuing the wounded Spyglass. Later, they manage to get a hold of a police car and successfully escape from the enemies. However, their car is pushed into a river by the same driver whose car Lorraine crashed when she first arrived in Berlin. Unfortunately, Spyglass drowned by that incident, making Lorraine failed to get the high-value asset safely across the West. Lorraine then meets with Merkel and informs him that Spyglass is dead, adding that the KGB knew the plan and is listening to her every step of the way, and now she really needed to cross the border. Merkel helped her by driving her past the checkpoint and successfully smuggled her outside East Berlin. To confirm her intuition, she ransacked her place looking for any bug that is used to listen to her, but no luck on finding it. Then she recollects the time she handed David her coat during her visit and immediately searched her coat and found it. Later, she tells Delphine that both of them have been set up by David. Delphine made a phone call to David threatening him about his meeting with the KGB and that she is planning to expose him to anyone who would listen. After that, David wastes no time and goes to Delphine's apartment. Delphine has a little bit struggle fighting him off, but eventually succumbs to death. David escapes as Lorraine arrives moments later. He then burns his hideout given the situation Lorraine is onto him and his list. Meanwhile, Lorraine found the envelope of Delphine's pictures proving David acting as a double agent caught red-handed with the KGB. And as David is trying to do his getaway, Lorraine appears behind him.
I fucking love Berlin!
With no explanation needed, Lorraine shoots him immediately where he stands. She also obtained the wristwatch containing the list. As David says his final words, that he read the list and revealing Lorraine as Satchel herself.
It's a double pleasure to deceive the deceiver.
Well played.
Lorraine ended him avenging Delphine and got the list. In the MI6 debriefing, she presents LaSalle's photographs and doctored audio recordings, which paint Percival as Satchel. She denies knowing the list's whereabouts, leaving MI6 no choice but to close the case. Then Lorraine asks her superior,
What should I wear for my tea with the Queen?
The trouble with lying and deceiving is that their efficiency depends entirely upon a clear notion of the truth that the liar and deceiver wishes to hide. A company of wolves is better than a company of wolves in sheep's clothing. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.